Assalamu alaikum. So, continuing with our discussions of how to transform the sexual environment around us, specifically with reference to this new public education curriculum, we're going on with part 3 of our presentation. In part 3, we're going to talk about what needs to be done to address our own education as parents who have our kids going to public school and other environments, and also, where required, if we decide to teach our children ourselves, the training that we need to undergo in order to make that happen. So once again, we have a mission statement, which is to provide an awareness program for parents to be delivered in an appropriate environment by teachers and presenters in several languages, and we're going to go through each of those items in green and explain them in greater detail. And again, I want to go back to that statement I made in part 2 and remind ourselves that sex education and training have to be made essential elements of good parenting. Okay, as to what constitutes an acceptable awareness program for parents, that is, what do we as parents need to be kept informed about? Well, the first thing we need to be kept informed about, and we can do this without starting up a new awareness program, is the public school curriculum itself. If you have not taken the time to actually go through the public school curriculum, go to the government website page and download it and read through it. Do not rely on Facebook posts. Do not rely on newsletters. Do not rely on, your conversations at mosques. This was a really frustrating point for one Muslim MP when he got a lot of complaints from Muslim parents about content that was not going to be included in the curriculum. Get informed about what your kids are going to be learning or what you're going to be opting to take them out of. This is a curriculum that's going to make a huge difference in your children's lives, whether you subscribe to the curriculum or you don't. We want to talk about the interaction that many kids have at schools with non-Muslims. School space is not like workspace. There's a much less reserved environment, and the conversation is wide-ranging and free. And of course, the attire that your kids are going to be coming in contact with among their non-Muslim friends, possibly even among their Muslim friends, is much looser than what's allowed at a workspace. As an example, just recently there was a protest in support of a girl who wanted to wear only a sports bra in her public school classroom. So, also we want to talk about interactions that your children might have with their Muslim friends. We don't want to be monitoring all of their conversations, but we do want to, be aware of the types of things that they might be discussing with their friends. The influences that stories and movies have, and we're talking about the most recent stories and movies. I'm going to use an analogy that many in the South Asian subcontinent will understand. We are past the days of Mughal-e-Azam and even past the days of Dhoom 3. What that means is that what you might have thought was risque or crossing some lines 20 years ago is now either very much the norm or very conservative by today's standards. So you need to be made aware of that and know what sort of things are being pushed in movies and stories. We need to talk about the commercial pressures that our children are facing. This is an obvious point. When you take your kids to the mall, what do they see? There's La Sanza with their very, very not so subliminal messages. Even when you go into the bay and you walk past the perfume stand, there are large billboards advertising all kinds of things and using sexual messages to do so. You can now walk by an adult stag shop in your neighborhood or close to your neighborhood. There used to be a time when these were, very much in ghetto locations, really. We want to talk about some of the even darker aspects of sexuality in our community. We want to talk about pornography and what your children are exposed to, what you can download either on your laptop or on your cell phone for free. And then we want to talk about an even darker aspect, which is the incidence of sexual assault and rape within the Muslim community. We don't usually talk about that. We seem to have a misconception that somehow we don't have incidences like that occurring within our community. And ask any social worker out there and they'll quickly dissuade you of that notion. Okay, and we also want to talk about what we as parents can do about these things. How we can work together and deal with these as a community. We want to strategize on local level Islamic initiatives. So the new basketball team is more than simply a basketball team. It's a place where your kid can go to and both fulfill a really, really exciting role and on a team, and also possibly even reach out to get support to deal with these issues. We can inform about the available Islamic resources, both online and offline. One big thing is the online courses that are available and may soon be available through Seekers Hub and the Maghrib Institute. So we really do want to stay on top of which websites, which resources are reliable, and which ones are not. We want to talk about the teen-based programs and initiatives we need to be starting. So the new class on Muslim rap or Muslim rock, or the dance classes that we may want to think of enrolling our students, our kids in, that is, in a way of controlling these impulses. We want to talk about marriage assistance programs. What sort of things can we do to make it easier for people to get married at a younger age? We want to look at initiatives that other religious groups have started. What have Jewish groups started? What have Catholic groups started? And perhaps by the end of this discussion, and perhaps by the end of once we've laid down some of the foundations to these new programs, we'll have something that they can borrow from too. And as for parents, I definitely want to leave with this message: to stay informed, stay faithful to Islamic principles, stay calm, and stay understanding and compassionate. Okay, so an acceptable environment, or maybe I should say media, within which we can deliver this information to parents. There's a video format possible with discussion and interaction, whether it's chat or other forms. There's the mosques, and again, I can understand the possible issues that people have with dealing with the subject matter in mosques. Perhaps we can have it in certain corners or sections of the mosque without making it in the general prayer area. We want to talk about maybe using Islamic schools. They are classroom settings and we can make use of them. Maybe we want to use our community centers that we have available. We do want to make these discussions possible in different languages. Again, many of our newer immigrants, yes, they know English, but they are not comfortable speaking about subjects like this in their own language, never mind in the English language. So we want to make that easier. And then we want to talk about, well, again, certain subjects may be better talked about amongst women alone, and certain amongst men alone. And as to who is going to lead these discussions, these lessons, we want them to be knowledgeable and very much up to date, living in the present and not the past, and very much informed on the subject matter. We want them to be trained to be able to lead these discussions, to be able to deliver the subject matter to parents who are usually very protective and strong-minded on certain aspects of the subject matter. We need them to be open-minded, people who don't essentially rule by their own opinions alone, who are open to other opinions. We absolutely need them to be both male. We want to have both male teachers and female teachers. This is not an issue that can be monopolized by one gender in its discussions. We have to be informed about the aspects of sexuality from both male and female perspectives. And we can have paid teachers, or we can have volunteer teachers, as long as they meet those first three qualifications. We want to ensure that they're knowledgeable, trained, and open-minded. We're pretty good with having either. These are adults, they're not children. They have filters, as opposed to children who are very inquiring and who are simply sponges for knowledge. So the next thing is to provide a training program for those parents who are not comfortable with having a new Islamic sex education curriculum taught in groups at the mosques or in community centers or other places, who are more comfortable teaching their children on their own. This training program is to be delivered in an appropriate environment, again, by teachers and presenters, and again, in several languages. As to an acceptable training program media, we could provide the training material in a video format with discussion and interaction possible, whether through chat or through other media. I don't know that many parents who take the option of training their children would be comfortable having an open classroom environment in which to absorb the material. However, we can certainly open that line of discussion as well. So the first order of business is to talk about the content of such a training program. And maybe it's easier simply to talk about what we want to see resulting from it. And what we want to see resulting from it is essentially parents who are good teachers on the subject matter for their children. We want parents to be knowledgeable and informed when they go teaching about the subject of sexuality to their children. We want parents who understand that it's no longer acceptable to say, well, kissing will result in babies, when there's an actual real-life class occurring in public school teaching exactly how babies happen. For that matter, just read the Quran Sharif. We want the subject matter to be relevant. We can't go on talking about things that our children are not actually facing in this society. We want the subject matter to be up to date with the latest knowledge. Really, we want parents who are sensitive to children who have questions, and sensitive and approachable. We can put those two together. So when children have questions about sex and sexuality, their feelings, other things that might come up, possible conflicts, we want parents to be approachable, and we want them to be sensitive. And we want parents who are not afraid to share their real life experience with children. Yes, that is something that many parents are not comfortable with. Ask yourself where their children will learn about real life experiences, if not from you, if you're the teacher. As to what we want in the teachers who will be delivering the training material for parents to train their children, we want them, again, very highly qualified in the subject matter, that is both knowledgeable and up to date. We want them to be trained. Once again, they're dealing with parents. We want them to be sensitive to the fact that these are parents who have opted out of even the Islamic curriculum. So there's a possibility that they have greater and broader concerns. This is something that should be done as a paid position, partly because the required subject matter and how to train parents needs a lot of skill, and partly because I'm certain that many parents will come back to these teachers with many questions and asking for advice. And we absolutely need them to occur in different languages. Once again, our teachers need to be approachable from people who are new immigrants. We often overlook those immigrants, and the results are pretty bad for our community. Okay, and if there's one thing I want to leave parents with after having gone through this part of the presentation, it's once again, stay informed, stay calm, stay faithful to Islamic principles, and stay understanding of your children. If we can just remember that going through this, then we've already made a huge progress in our sexual awareness program. And I've set up an email address for anyone who has any questions with regards to this part or any other part. IslamicSexEdOntario@gmail.com. So you can send your questions there. And this concludes part 3 of this presentation. Inshallah, stay tuned for part 4. Okay, and one last thing, and this just recently came up, but it falls right within this segment. A brother recently put up a post on Facebook about his own struggles with homosexuality. I'm going to put the post up myself, and you can choose to read it or ignore it. You can choose to comment civilly and respectfully and with compassion, or you can remain silent. This brother is intent on overcoming his homosexual nature, and he wants his post to be put up as education material for those people who don't understand. But he is bent upon ensuring that he remains living Islam in a halal manner. So we as parents need to understand how we should be dealing with people who have homosexual tendencies or are part of the wider LGBTQ plus community, and how to instruct our children in dealing with them in a compassionate manner. So that post is going to go up soon. You can comment in a civil manner, or you cannot. And anything that's found in an uncivil manner or in a manner that's derogatory, I will remove. Thank you very much.